as a futurist, what if we didn't have assessment? It's a fast-moving world with AI. We need to move faster. We need to be careful, we need to be methodical, but we do need to move faster. Right? We don't have all the answers yet. We think we do, but we don't. There's something we're still missing, and I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it involves technology.
Hello and welcome, Dr Julie Lindsay.
Thanks, Lachlan. It's good to be here.
Now, Julie, would you be able to give us a little short background of your work in higher education?
Yes, well, look, I've been in higher education for about 12 years, and I was in K-12 for about 30 years before that. When we came back from teaching in Beijing, my husband and I were international teachers for about 15 years. We settled at the beach and I thought, well, what am I going to do? I might do my PhD. So that started my journey essentially into higher education, and I was working at Charles Sturt University from home. That was starting in 2013. And they used to fly me into campus every now and then. But basically, they used to laugh. I was the Ocean Shores campus down at the beach. But that was great. So I finished my PhD. I did a number of contracts with them and then secured a position here at UniSQ in 2020.
Wow, quite an extensive experience. That's amazing. So the first topic I'd like to talk about is interacting with modern learners. I thought first question might be interesting is, do you see much of a variance in working with younger students compared to adult learners?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I was just saying to someone the other day, I really do miss the classroom. I don't miss the busyness and the tiredness from working in a K-12 classroom, or I was mainly high school. But I miss that energy. The energy of kids is something you don't appreciate until you've got like 25 of them in front of you. All going, I want to play the drum kit next, because I actually spent the first 15 years of my teaching career as a music teacher. So, I was a classroom music teacher. We used to do drum kit as one of the modules. And this engagement of students and the willingness to adopt technology is what I saw as well through the 80s and 90s. You don't quite get that in higher ed. We're all a bit adult and a bit sort of, serious. Yeah. But I do miss that, because when I was in a high school class, I learnt so much from the students. You're constantly learning from them because they're always pushing the envelope. Like now, it must be amazing to be in schools, though I think in Australia things are so blocked and cut down. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. So it sort of worries me what's actually going on. Though I'm sure there's a lot of innovation going on and a lot of excited students exploring AI, whether it's in their own time and not in the classroom.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. So engagement is there at younger ages and all this sort of stuff. What do you think creates that sort of disrupts that throughout into adulthood? Does it come down to a lack of identity around what they're wanting out of education, or are there other influences that are at play there?
That's a really interesting question, because I think people come to higher education for different reasons, and they come at different ages now. Of course, this university is not a young person's university. Our demographic is older. They're busy. A lot of our students are busy. They've got families, they've got jobs. They're like, just let me get through this degree because I might get more money at the end of it. At the same time, though, as a generalisation about higher education, are we actually providing a stimulating environment for them to learn in? And we really need to consider that at the moment. The modern learner, I think, requires engagement in different ways. We do talk about going beyond the lecture, providing engaging resources, often relying on educational technology or technology in general, such as videos and podcasts. But a lot of what engages a student and a learner, and I think thinking back on my learning, and perhaps yours as well, is finding a passion in the subject. And a lot of students never actually find that. But we have to try and help them find it. So they do become engaged and go, I want to create that podcast on this topic because I know who I want to talk to. And then giving them choices in their assessments as well relates to this. One size does not fit all these days.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment there. Does it come down back to assessment? Is that like a sort of contributing factor that really disrupts, I guess, the passion and the ability to experience the learning and all that?
I think the lack of choice in assessment can have an impact on it. You know, if you've got a last assessment is an essay. Well, you know, we've done some analysis on this in terms of how the high AI risk factor is, and that's another story. But do they have to do an essay? Can't they do something else? Can they do an interview? Can they do a case study? What are the choices? What would really inspire them to learn the knowledge through that discipline and show that they have some understanding about it? You know, another scenario is, and as a futurist, which I sometimes put my futurist hat on, other times I'm just trying to survive the present, but as a futurist, you know, what if we didn't have assessment? And of course that's an impossible scenario for many of our disciplines because there's accreditation for nursing, there's accreditation for law, there's accreditation for education, so of course we can't not have assessment. But what if we didn't and we asked the students to create their own assessment? What would that look like?
Yeah, it's a very interesting thought, that, because I have often stumbled upon thinking that assessment is the main barrier for learning there. And I have wondered if various formats of assessing would be beneficial. For example, not just putting large percentages on two forms of assessment, but like also acknowledging easy credits for attending tutorials or something like that, and like treat it as like professional development points or something like that. So maybe rethinking the whole grade system, and maybe it should be like a point system or something like that.
Yeah, look, I think it's all been tried in the past
Yeah.
to an extent, and not that it's a bad idea. I think we've gone beyond giving points for contributing to the discussion forum. We went through that phase not so long ago.
Okay, yep.
I don't think this university does that. Maybe others do. Attendance, I don't think they do it. We don't do attendance for tutorials anymore. Obviously, because a lot of students just don't come to tutorials, particularly the online ones. So we're really thinking hard what some of the next steps are, I think, because the value of attending a university, the value of the socialisation that you get at a university is a little bit in question if students do not engage with the learning. And by doing that, that means engaging with three main things: engaging with the teacher, engaging with their peers, and engaging with the content. So if they essentially have to engage with the content to pass the assessment. That's the structure at the moment. Somehow you've got to know some part of the content to pass. But if they're not engaging with the teacher or with students and just sitting at home and doing the work, which, you know, that's what a lot of online learning is, what's the value in that? We should be questioning this now, because you could just sit at home, have an AI tutor, and 4 years later you've got a law degree. What sort of a lawyer will you be?
And do you have any ideas around how we can improve student engagement there?
I think students get really bored listening to us talk. And I think some of us like to talk too much. And actually, I'm not teaching at the moment. I haven't taught for 3 or 4 years, but I was teaching at higher ed for a number of years and designing courses and at all different, you know, first year, master's degree, etc. And you've got to give space for the student, as I said, to interact with the teacher, to actually give have their voice heard, and for them to talk to each other. And that's where you need the learning environments. Now, sitting in a classroom, of course, you have that learning environment. You are face-to-face. But then how do you blend that with the students who are on Zoom or in our new learning environment, Engagely? How do you get them talking to each other? And then how does that work when it's a totally online classroom? And how does it work asynchronously? Right? We don't have all the answers yet. We think we do, but we don't. There's something we're still missing, and I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it involves technology.
Yeah, because I have been wondering about if metaverse or something like that is the answer for education, to bring both I guess, a sort of physical presence and a virtual presence to like the whole campus life and the experience and all that, because it is can be very isolating being an online learner.
Yes, and some people like that, but most don't.
Yeah.
Most find it frustrating. But then, once again, I think that's the responsibility, well, joint responsibility, the teacher and the student. The teacher should be doing things to bring those students together, to bring their ideas out, encouraging interaction, and the students should understand that learning is about co-creation of knowledge. It's not about sitting and reading the textbook. I mean, that's very old hat now, of course. So there's a responsibility on both parts. You can't just give students a whole pile of PDFs and expect them to suddenly be engaged. You've got to build something around that, the community of practice, the opportunity for interaction. And I think in many respects, asynchronous interaction is still undervalued. That's something that we've been talking about a lot in the last couple of years, and we're going to launch a project on it next year in terms of asking academics to come into a pilot to really hone in on, well, what does asynchronous interaction look like? How can we really develop better skills in it to support our students?
And what is asynchronous learning?
Good question. Okay, so it's connecting and collaborating and responding and interacting, not in real time. All right, so for example, I mean, a very simple format is a discussion forum. You might post something on Tuesday night. I may not see it till Wednesday afternoon. I might reply to you. Someone else might see it Thursday morning. They'll reply. And there's your ongoing interaction, but it's not in real time. Okay, so I think a lot of our academics in higher education rely on that real-time energy for engagement and don't think about what they could be doing with asynchronous. And they're not getting all of the students to come to the real time. So there's a whole basket full of students out there who aren't getting that engagement necessarily.
But I assume it'd probably come down to a little bit of time availability to manage that, because I guess we're breaking away from the whole structure of having timetables and this is the designated time to work on such activity, whereas you're encouraging like an ongoing opportunity of discussion and learning, which is, I guess, a little bit sad in a way, because I think that would be more valuable for students if educators were treated more like mentors. I think that would really be empowering for students and give them a clear direction in regards to where they want to go in their careers.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been talking about this for a long time as well. You know, the educator, not as the content knowledge, the knowledge expert, but as the guide on the side, the facilitator, the mentor, and giving more autonomy to the student and more flexibility to how they want to learn. But it's hard to let go of that control. I don't know whether, now that we're starting to see the baby boomers drop off, and I'm a baby boomer, whether that will change. I don't know. The system it's really tricky to change a system that we're used to, because often, and there's research on this, teachers who have been taught a certain way in their youth tend to teach the same way. It's really hard to break that.
So you've got to be very aware of
Yeah.
The structure that you're working with, but also the habits that you've formed over the years. Yeah, interesting. So I guess that might be a nice little segue into radical change within the university sector. So what's your thoughts on the whole learning environment of going like digitally online compared to a combination, or even should we get back to being on campus entirely?
Oh, goodness, this is the $1,000 question at the moment. Okay, so my second master's degree I did totally online, 2001 to 2004, when I was living in Kuwait at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C., USA. It was one of the only universities at the time where I did a master's degree in educational technology leadership, and they didn't have any on-campus students. It was totally online. It was fabulous. It was actually fabulous for 20 years ago, what they were doing. The tutors were great. They were always interacting in the discussion forums. There were very few synchronous sessions because we were all around the world. A lot of the students were US based, but there were a few international teachers in there and other people as well. So I always think back to this one. I actually ended up going onto the campus and meeting my lecturers, but way after I'd graduated, because I was in the States, I was in Washington, DC. But I think back at that university was so bold, and they're still going, they're still running the same course, 20 years later with modifications and et cetera.
Wow. Is it certainly sustainable? Like if a lot of universities move to that approach, and also are there concerns around, I guess, the cultural aspects of a university and I guess having those sort of local values? Is that a concern at all, entering that digital space?
That's interesting because, there are a number of online universities. I mean, Athabasca from Canada is an online university. That's another good one. There are a lot of good models. Once again, I think in Australia in particular, but in Europe, we are hung up on the campus, the gardens, the CAF, we're giving people jobs, the socialisation. And it's historical, it is, because we all loved our university campus life. 70s and 80s was mine here in Australia mainly. After that I was just in and out because I was trying to make a living as well as study. But I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around it. People don't quite understand how good it can be, and there's no reason not to do that. Just make it an online university.
But do you think we're also technologically there? Like, do we have enough technology to have the full interaction online and to make it engaging and
Yes.
to make it unique?
Yes,
It's there?
we do. What we don't have is the educator mindset to say, I'm going to do this, I will do this. What we still have, and I'm talking generally here, is educator pushback.
Yep.
At all ages. And it's pushback because I can't be bothered learning the technology, or I think I'm doing a great job standing up in front of the class. I like to be that type of teacher. And that's okay too, but you can't do that all the time. You've got to build asynchronous resources and asynchronous learning as well. And then when you go totally online, it can still be a combination of synchronous and asynchronous, but it's a whole different approach. We have the technologies, there's no doubt about that. And we're continually exploring new technologies to support that. It's a bit of a, what can we afford sort of thing across all higher ed at the moment. Budgets are pretty dire. But the real blocker is the people. And it's never been any different since I've been working in technology. It's never really been any different. But maybe AI is going to transform this.
Yeah, I do wonder. And what's your thoughts on artificial intelligence?
Oh, well, it's transformational. Seriously, it is. It's like, I equate it to when the internet came in the 90s. And even before that, you could equate it to when we got calculators. I used to carry a logbook when I was at high school. And then calculators came in. People said, they're just going to get the answer straight away. They won't know how to multiply. My goodness, how far we've come. Not far. No.
But it's interesting you say that because, same comments are being made about artificial intelligence now. And I feel like there is a great divide with artificial intelligence. There's people that are pro and people that are against. And the people that are pro can see that it just will enable new opportunities of learning and critical thinking and analysis. And it just makes everyone more time efficient and effective in their positions, whereas there's, I feel a great sense of concern around authenticity, original creativity, and concerns around personal skills and development. What's your thoughts on the divide there?
I don't think this is anything new. We went through this when we first got Google. They're just going to Google the answer. This is really nothing new. There are a number of challenges we have in front of us in terms of raising academic AI fluency, raising student AI fluency. I think if you don't know something well enough, then you don't know how to use it effectively. There is, of course, a lot of talk about academic integrity. We've always had this, though. I really don't think it's any worse with AI. We just need to talk to the students because I think some students are doing it without realising that they're doing the wrong thing because they haven't really been advised or they haven't listened yet. So my attitude is embrace the new technologies because they're not going to go away. So the sooner we embrace them and work out how to use them for improving educational outcomes, the better we are. We still have different disciplines here that are very reluctant to do anything except ban AI.
It's a shame, isn't it?
Well, it is, because really when students come out now and go to their profession or get a job, they're going to be expected to use AI. Right? There's no doubt about it. They'll need to have a basic level. It's like coming out and, years ago it was, can you use Excel? Can you use Word? Can you use database? We used to do database stuff on the computer. Well, that's all gone now, really. I mean, when I was leading technology in international schools, I used to cringe when the headmaster used to ask me to run how to use Microsoft Excel classes. I used to hate it.
Yep.
I said, people can teach themselves that. Oh, no, they can't. Well, he was right, they couldn't. But then, that was a waste of my time. I wanted to teach blogging. I wanted to teach Web 2.0. I wanted to teach how to create your own website. All those exciting things, how to get students into global projects, not how to use Excel spreadsheets.
Yep. So I think it comes back down to we need better awareness around how to use artificial intelligence in a positive light, use it to push the barriers of creativity, innovation and thinking and all that. And there's going to be concerns, I guess. People will rely on it and use it as the easy way out, and sometimes that can be helpful for the tedious tasks we hate, but overall I think the benefits are certainly there for it.
The benefits always outweigh the reverse. We've just got to learn how to manage it. We really do.
Will that mean universities need to rethink assessments around?
Yes, all universities now are reimagining assessment. They are. And then of course there's the universities who are not doing exams on campus anymore, which is actually us at the moment here, and others in Australia. There are still the universities who have on-campus exams, and there's a whole range. There's also online invigilated exams or online open book exams that we're starting to look at. Of course, they're a bit of a high risk as well. We've just done a heat map here in terms of what are the high risk assessments that need to be modified in the next 12 to 24 months, and what are the low-risk ones? How do we move more towards using AI for content creation, so students actually using it to create things? How do we use AI to demonstrate the process of learning, not just the outcome or the product? So it's drawing on all my on my previous education as life in education as a teacher, and all the things I used to do around assessment. It's all bringing it out again because I haven't thought about this specifically for quite a while with the sort of other work I've been doing.
Yep. I love how it's coming back to creativity though, because particularly for students, working on assignments, having that flexibility for creativity and to make it individual to their own passion, I think will help greatly in that sort of aspect to reignite the sort of engagement for students and make universities a more interesting and meaningful place, I think.
Well, we don't want to lose that. In high school, we used to call them passion projects. You choose a topic, you go and...
Yeah, I remember that.
And it's great. Well, why can't we have that in... Well, I think we do. It's perhaps hidden. I mean, not everything's didactic, not everything's, top down. But we do have to think out of the box. We really do, because we're losing... the way things are changing, we're losing students who can just go and do a series of micro-credentials, even from different universities, get their qualification, out they go into the workforce. And I think actually that insular experience of being at a university, it has has pretty much gone, and that's hard for some regional universities to understand, because we tend to think, well, we'll get the student and we've got them for 3 or 4 years, or even more post-grad. But it's not like that anymore. I mean, you yourself have been to 3 universities.
Correct, yep.
Haven't you?
Yep.
I went to 3 in my undergraduate and honours and diploma of education. I went to 3 in Melbourne, which in the 80s was really unusual, actually.
And I'm not sure if it's the same for you, but I found it so fascinating how the experience is just so different amongst all the universities. And particularly in the digital space, there doesn't seem to be any consistency around what the digital environment needs to look like, how it needs to be laid out. And yeah, I wonder if that is perhaps a lack of digital literacy around understanding the tools and the environment.
I think it's 2 things, actually, and that's a really good point that you've made, because there's no top-down coming from the government in terms of our higher education learning environment must look like this. I mean, we know we all have to have a learning management system. Some have Moodle, some have Blackboard, some have Canvas. There's a range of them out there. There are 2 things about this. Now, it's not necessarily it's a little bit of a lack of digital literacy, but it's also, a lot of this is driven by ICT or IT in the university in terms of what is allowable. And of course, they have to protect, they've got to look at our security, our cyber security, but they're often not looking out for our best educational approach. And I don't mean that in a critical way. That's pretty much their role. Like, no, we can't go there because we're worried about this. So there's a constant struggle with, well, no, we wanted you do this. Oh, no, you can't do that because we might leave students exposed. So they always err on the side of caution. People like me always err on the side of, come on, let's just do it. Let's just try it and see if it works. So there's that side to it. And then, of course, there's well, how many changes can we make? Because people don't cope with change very well. So if we want to keep improving, we need to keep introducing new ideas, new changes. And, the last 5 years have been pretty tough on people. With online, offline,
yep.
Whatever. Yeah, a lot of change.
Yeah, I believe that's wholeheartedly felt throughout the sector, that the ongoing change, that everyone's getting a bit fatigued and all that sort of stuff. And it's hard keeping up with technology and all these policy changes and all that sort of stuff. But that's the situation we're in. We're acknowledging the change and that something new and fresh is on the horizon. So
hopefully,
yes,
but it's going to be you and me, Lachlan, who we've got to come up with it and push for it.
Certainly. And I was wondering if you had any future ideas around an ideal. So if like money policies wasn't a limitation, what would be an ideal for higher education?
Okay, so this is my passion project. Here we go. Look, I've been working with curriculum embedded online global collaborative learning for many years, since the 90s, and mainly in K-12, but now I'm coming into higher education with this, and I'm working with a grant at the moment to explore what's actually going on out there, who's doing what, how are they doing it. My vision is that universities really embrace this and that learning becomes what I call flatter learning. It's not hierarchical, it's not contained within the walls of one university, which it isn't these days. There are so many ways to learn. You can sit at home and watch YouTube and learn and pass a test and get your degree.
I'm one of them, yep.
Yeah, that's right. So we need to flatten the learning. We need universities just to embrace this flat learning. We need to co-design learning, so colleagues in other universities, in other countries, get together with them, co-design the learning. For example, I'm working with the School of Humanities at the moment with the archaeology people. I didn't even know we had archaeology till recently. And there's an archaeology unit in one of our partner universities in Germany. So we're getting together and co-designing a pilot next year where the students talk about digs and, because they do classical archaeology there and we do Indigenous archaeology here. How different can that be? How amazing is that for the students to learn each other's approach? So there's that. And I just know the power of bringing people from different cultures together, even though we're a very multicultural university, and Australia is very multicultural, and a number of places in the world are, but at the same time, it was actually an eye-opener to me to go to Germany this year, to be at our partner university for a week, to see how different they really are. You know, and that would have taken a lot of online meetings, because someone said to me, "Oh, why are you going? Can't you just do this online?" No, this is an opportunity. I'm going to sit and talk to people. I'm going to see what they do, what they say, how they approach education. And it was very much an eye-opener. And the same with joining our students together. We're the same but different. And this builds global competency. It builds intercultural understanding. It builds what we call glocalisation, that's with a C. Learning globally, then bringing it back to a local context, building your network, building collaborative co-creation of solutions. I mean, climate change. Imagine if we got our students together more often with climate change.
That'd be amazing.
It's so powerful, and yet it's so... I don't know, but they're not doing it much in Australia here. I mean, it seems to be very popular in Europe. There's a COIL, Collaborative Online International Learning, acronym COIL, has been going from the United States for 20 years, quite US-centric or North American-centric, but still reaching out to the world. We need something here that will touch us, get Australia motivated to do this. So that's what I'm working on at the moment.
I love it. Yeah. I think that's valuable, bringing different perspectives to the table, and having that cross-learning opportunity, I think, is just fantastic. It really introduces you to a whole new world out there. Like, quite recently, I've done a bit of travel overseas to Southeast Asia, and it's just amazing being there, experiencing the culture and getting to know the people and understanding their challenges. It really does provide a different perspective around your everyday life and how you can be of help to others and all that. And I think, once again, it just helps engage passion back into learning. So
Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah. And, we talk about inclusion and access. But, the mobility programs where students actually go overseas for a week or two or a semester or whatever, very few students get the opportunity to do that. But joining students together globally in curriculum-embedded opportunities really provides that inclusion in different ways.
Yeah. So what can we do now?
Now.
Yes, it's a very broad question there. But yeah, what can we do now to help with this positive change?
Oh, goodness. Be open to opportunities. And look, it's difficult. I'm at a stage in my life, I don't have young children. That's a pressure. Having young children's a pressure. You've got to give time. There are a whole lot of pressures in life. Perhaps I've got a bit more time to sit and play with AI or whatever it takes. But then there's people like me who can guide other people. No, don't look at that one,
Yep.
Read that resource. You don't have to sift through the hundreds that come through over my desk every day. So I'm heartened by the people who are coming to our AI sessions, lunchbox sessions and other sessions where we're discussing the challenges. I think opening those channels of discussion, building a community of practice around change is so important. And we're doing that here. I know other universities are doing it. And that will lead to action. But to an extent, we're not going to get very far unless the system also changes with us. The work model, they're looking at changing that now. So many hours allocated for tutes, whatever. It doesn't work anymore. We need to throw the whole lot up in the air and start again. And it's really hard to do that as a bureaucratic institution.
And how do we seek change?
It's a process.
Yeah,
I'm on
I
the
can
academic board now. It's a process. And that's okay. But when it's not an agile or flexible process, we're not agile enough.
Yeah.
And that's a shame, because it's a fast-moving world with AI. We need to move faster. We need to be careful, we need to be methodical, but we do need to move faster. I think sometimes Work ethic is an interesting thing. And I was going to say, Australians they like their days off, they like their long weekends. But at the same time, I've seen in other countries now, of course, where there's you work from here to here, that's it, you go home with your kids and your family or whatever.
Yep.
And I think the whole work ethic, this people talking about the 4-day week, the mandatory 4-day week, why do we have to work 5 days a week? Who said that? Who decreed that? This is, and now of course a lot of people work at home at least part of the week.
Yep.
That's a major change, isn't that? I mean, I was working at home anyway, so I was like, nothing's changed for me. But that's by the by. It did change. It has changed for a lot of people. So there's that whole trust. Do we trust people to work at home? Do we trust students to learn at home? You don't have to be in view all the time. There has to be trust. And if there's not, well, then there's a thing called performance management. But we need encouragement for new ideas, which, there are grants out there. There are people you can talk to. I'm lucky I'm actually talking to a number of international people at the moment. I've spread out a bit more in the last few months to embrace different ideas internationally, and I'm really enjoying that and bringing in some ideas, because this is, I think, important. If you have that opportunity to interact with people with ideas, bring the ideas back in, see whether they're relevant. This is what globalisation is. What's that idea? There's a university in Germany that it's actually a chain of universities that I've been talking to recently who and they've created an app, an AI app. Every student has this AI app on their phone. It's their study buddy. So they've been developing this app. They get it as soon as they walk into the university. They've got that app, and they talk to it, and it helps them, and it tells them where to go and whatever. I'm not sure exactly what it does, but wow. It's amazing.
And that's why I do wonder if AI can help contribute to that sort of areas, be like, that study buddy that the student can always rely on for ideas and more specific help around, it'd be great if it could be integrated with the library systems and all that, and engage with the academic resources and draw from that, and even the course content, and be very sort of specific.
And being very personalised.
Yes.
This is the thing, personalisation.
Yep.
And something that works. I don't know about you, but my Siri on my iPhone, she doesn't like me. She doesn't work. Half the time she tells me Spotify is not working, which I know it is. So that's no good to me. I need a Claude. I've been using Claude.ai. Claude's not bad. We tend to personalise these things. There's a word for that. It's a long word. I can never pronounce it. It starts with A, where we humanise the AI chatbot or the AI whatever. But we need reliable, efficient tools to get us through the day. I'm thinking, what time is it in London now? I've got a meeting in London. Instead of going to the laptop, which is not quick, not slow. Sorry, you go London. What time is it in London now? If you can say to Siri and she's nice to you, she might give you the answer. Very quickly, and that's this efficiency. And you see those science fiction advertisements. They're not quite science fiction, where they're bringing up the things in front of them while they're cleaning their teeth. They're sort of cleaning your teeth, and you've got your stock market, and you've got your email, and then close Windows Siri or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, we're not far from that at all.
Well, I know even myself, with a bit of writing and assessment writing and all that now, I'm starting to use speech to text, where I'm just reading out to my phone or through my microphone to Word, and it's just jotting down all of it. And it saves so much time. And then you can just quickly go back and just make adjustments where it's got a word wrong, or it's forgotten a comma or a full stop or something like that. But it is a game changer.
Yes, and I must use that more often, actually. That's reminded me.
I highly recommend it.
Something I've got on my list because, you do get set in your ways.
Absolutely.
And I like my laptop. I've tried to use an iPad for work. I'm not comfortable with that. I do use my phone a lot, but you do have your own workflow, and that's personalisation as well. You've got to be able to choose your own workflow.
Yep.
And that's okay. But if there's a better way, yes, I must try it.
Indeed. Amazing. Well, I think we've covered quite a few amazing topics there, and it's all about a little bit of slow transformation and breaking down those barriers that we have on ourselves and embracing change. So thank you very much, Julie, for being on the show, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, Lachlan. It's been great to talk to you. Thanks.